Space, the final frontier. These are the podcasts of the podcast Enterprise. Its only mission to explore story structures, to analyze our favorite characters and plot lines, to boldly talk about what everyone has seen before. Hello and welcome everybody to Podcast Enterprise. We usually discuss the story structure, the characters, what have they done, what we like and don't like in this particular episode, and we end it with a nice twist at the end with a hypothetical question. So I am Bala Ramadurai, and with me I have my co-host Parvati Ramkumar.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm really excited today because this is our last episode from season one.
Last episode, yes, exactly. And what a way to end this season. Call it Operation Annihilate.
Yes, let's annihilate the whole thing.
Okay, so we will start with our summary of this episode. Parvati, over to you.
Okay, so when this episode opens, you find that the USS Enterprise is approaching the planet Deneva. Captain Kirk is actually very nervous at this point because there's something wrong down there in Deneva, and Uhura is not able to communicate with the people there. And his brother is also down there. And Spock very helpfully says that there's some pattern of mass insanity that has been jumping from planet to planet, and now it's going to be on Deneva. And Kirk is naturally very worried about this. So while they're approaching this planet, there's no response to their hailing frequencies, there's no response to their calls. While they're approaching this planet, they find that a small ship, a Denevan ship, is flying towards the Denevan sun, which is very hot. And when it gets very close to the sun, it disintegrates, but not before the Enterprise picks up an exclamation where the person on the Denevan ship says, he's free, and whatever it is, it's gone, he's free, and he dies. That's it. So now the issue is they have to get down on Deneva, and with a small landing party, when Kirk teleports down there, he finds that the place is more or less deserted. It's supposed to be a hugely populated planet, but there's nobody there. However, they go down there, they look for people, and then it looks like some people are coming out to attack them, but they don't want to attack them, but they're being forced to attack them against their will. It seems they're being controlled by something else or someone else. We don't know at this point. Kirk eventually finds that his brother is dead, his sister-in-law is acting crazy, his nephew is unconscious. So the sister-in-law and nephew, they take them back to the Enterprise, and there they find that the sister-in-law is being controlled by something in her body. She's trying to tell them what went wrong on Deneva, but she's not able to because something is choking her from within, and she starts screaming. Things go from bad to worse. Eventually, she passes away, but they have to find out what is going on Deneva. So Kirk and the landing party, they return with Spock, and they try to find whatever this infestation is, the source of this infestation, and then they come across these icky, plasticky looking, huge, pink colored creatures that are sticking to the ceilings and walls and making weird noises. One of them attaches themselves to Spock, and from then on he is also infected. He undergoes excruciating pain. He tries to talk, but this thing tries to prevent him from talking. It is controlling his thoughts, it's controlling his emotions, but through his sheer Vulcan physique, he's able to push down the pain and control whatever it is this thing is trying to do. So the Enterprise must naturally now try and dissect these parasites that are infecting people and turning them insane. And they find that it's some sort of brain cell, or those creatures are some sort of loose brain cells of a creature that we never really see. They're flying all over the planet, infecting people from planet to planet, all over the solar system, infecting people from planet to planet, bringing them down, driving them insane. And through a lot of trial and error, to cut a long story short, they find that the only way to kill it is to throw intense light at it. That's the only way it can be killed. There is no other way of getting rid of it. It is resistant to almost everything. So the sample that they have in the lab, they take it to a chamber and subject it to that light, which I believe is 1 million candles per square inch intensity. So when they do that, they find that the thing is dead. Naturally, now Spock has to be cured, and Spock, being Spock, decides to have himself cured without protecting his eyes from the intense light because the people down there on the planet cannot have that sort of protection. He goes into the chamber, they switch on the light, and he goes blind. And then, after that, very conveniently, they find that they don't have to throw the full spectrum of light at the creature, just the ultraviolet light. So, seed satellites are released all around the planet that release high intensity ultraviolet light, and the creatures are killed, restoring order to some extent. And I'm sure we're going to talk about this later, Bala, but Spock does regain his sight. Back to you.
Okay. Yes. So first up, I this is one of my favorite episodes. So I'll go with that four-act structure of my favorite episode. So it starts off with the teaser where we are given to understand what is it that we are going to face in the entire episode. So one of them is the personal angle that we see. That's Captain is really worried. You can see that also because when he's giving the private transmitter code to Uhura, and all that's given in the teaser itself. And by the end we come to know that why is he so worried, because McCoy hints that it's probably his brother Sam who's stationed at Deneva. So and then because the ship goes on to be obliterated by the sun, and intentionally they know that the mass insanity is indeed reached. So that's the teaser giving us a good glimpse of what's up in the episode. First act starts off with the revelation that it was indeed Sam and it was his sister-in-law who asked for help. So that's from the personal point of view. And that's when they decide to beam down to the capital city of Deneva. And by end of the first act, we get to know what kind of horror they have in the Unstopped. And to make it even more intense and personal for Captain Kirk, Spock gets infected by this creature. This creature attacks Spock. So now we know that this has to be one is his nephew and his sister-in-law, and now his best friend and first officer also are affected. So he can really feel that this is a problem. The second act starts off with Dr. McCoy trying to operate on Spock, but he realizes it's way beyond his abilities to sort of extricate the tentacles that are around his nervous system. So Dr. McCoy pretty much gives up and he can't do anything. He's just stumped. And by the end of this episode, the only way seems that Spock, who's not really 100% in control of himself, is the only person who can actually go down and get a sample for himself. That's the cliffhanger we're left with at the end of second act. Of course, third act starts off with a nerve pinch and the attacker is gone in an instant. We knew that all along. But Spock does manage to get a sample back to the spaceship. But now they realize that this is beyond them to even, in spite of the fact that they have a sample, or they have tried everything, all the labs, all the facilities, all the tests, everything, it reveals nothing. It's just way beyond whatever they have faced so far. And the only way seems to be to destroy the colony with Spock and Captain Kirk's nephew. By this time, Aurelian, the sister-in-law, is dead. So all that is remaining in that family tree is his nephew. So nephew, Spock, and the entire planet, millions of people, have to be killed with so the planet has to be destroyed with the creatures on it, so that the creatures cannot move further and go into denser parts of the galaxy. So that's the sort of ending to the third act. Now, of course, Captain Kirk, being Captain Kirk, is stubborn. He wants that third alternative. He doesn't want to just leave it there, and neither does he want to destroy a million inhabitants, but he wants the third alternative. So that's rest of the act is about them fact finding and trying to find solutions for a solution for this problem. They're trying with experiments and everything. And in the end, of course, one of the solutions work, with Kirk coming up with that solution and them trying again and failing, and it only hurts Spock's eyesight. Bit of banter at the end, and there's a funny moment at the end of the fourth act, and it's a fantastic end to a fantastic season and this episode as well. So I loved this episode. In fact, I could say straight away that I don't want anything changed in this episode. It is exactly what I wanted. I would like to watch it the same way it was. Absolutely
Again,
nothing. It's
yes.
it, again and again and again. Like I watched it a million times. I think it's a unbelievable episode.
Yes, yes, I found it. I found it so engrossing, especially when you introduce the personal element in the beginning with Kirk's brother, and you know that
Mm,
something has gone wrong, and you know, and you see Kirk displaying a human side because his brother is something has happened to him. He probably has already guessed that he may be dead. His
mm,
sister-in-law is. In trouble, obviously, because there's nothing coming from that planet, and you have this mad Denevan flying into the sun, and he also has a nephew, and I cannot imagine his trauma when he went down there and found his brother
mm,
dead and his sister-in-law screaming and his nephew unconscious. It was just so intense, Bala. I absolutely loved it. And that thing, that singular celled whatever it was, that icky thing, it was so
mm,
creepy, and
mm,
it was what made it particularly eerie was that it seemed to be semi-conscious on its own. On the
mm,
one hand, you find that all these cells, they work in a cluster, but they also seem to communicate with each other, and they are
mm,
also at the same time able to interact independently, as you can see when it latches itself onto Spock.
mm,
And I must say, I really liked Spock's characterization in this one. He was just so stoic, he was so strong, and
mm,
I don't know how he was able to find the mental fortitude to actually force down the pain, because one of the things that this creature, the brain cells, do once they infect an individual is to inflict a lot of pain. And you do find the medbay systems, they show that there is an intense amount of pain. And that's
mm.
what prevents these people from talking. It chokes them from within. And Spock was able to resist it partly because of his Vulcan physique, and partly, I think, because his mind is just so well ordered. So yeah,
Mm.
overall, it was an amazing experience, Bala.
Yeah, in fact, in the teaser itself, you can see like we're talking about the personal element, right? So
Yeah,
Kirk is so on the edge that he actually, starts shouting at Uhura, which he
yes,
never does. He's so courteous to her all the time. This is one time he's like, "Can we try it harder? I mean, don't just give me excuses," kind of a thing, right? He never does that. He never does that. He knows that all his team members are so amazing at their work, but he
yeah.
actually yells at
He
Uhura, and
yelled
she
at
says,
Uhura.
they stop transmitting. I'm not. I've been trying this whole time, right?
Yeah,
So, and you can see his desperation throughout, and McCoy reminds him that, hey, you have a duty not only to your nephew and your friend and all that, but you need to take care of these million inhabitants, and you have a job ahead of you.
exactly.
McCoy sort of reminds him of that, right? It's so much it's not Kirk at all, right? When he
Yes,
normally is so duty bound to his ship, his crew, this one time he's like thrown everything out, and it's like, I want my friend and my nephew, somehow taken care of. Rest will,
exactly.
we don't care about the rest.
Exactly. This is where the conflict comes because something very personal to him, something very traumatic has happened that is very personal to him because this is his own
Hmm.
brother Sam, and Sam is dead. And naturally, when something happens to a family member, the natural instinct is to panic. And Kirk, despite all his training and everything he has been through, still panics. And I think
Hmm.
showing that in the beginning was an incredible touch. He has to keep the ship under control. He has to not take decisions in a brash frame of mind. He has to stay calm. But at the same time, there are so many feelings bubbling out of him because, like I said, he probably suspected that his brother was dead
Hmm.
and
In
having a
fact, at
nephew
one
also.
point,
Yeah.
he literally pleads with McCoy, right? At one point, he
Yes.
literally pleads with McCoy, saying, "Can you do anything to help them? I mean, do
Yes.
everything to help them." And it's like McCoy is
Exactly.
like, "Yes, we are doing everything we can. I mean, this is
Yeah.
what we can do. We're doing our best."
Exactly. He just wants his family to be alive. And
Hmm.
showing that part of Kirk was a very fine touch. Mostly you
Hmm.
see him as this detached captain who is running his ship. The lives the lives of those on the ship matter to him the most. But at the same time, there are many points when I wondered, see, what if he had a family? How would they show that? And
Hmm.
this episode
Hmm.
captures that so well because he does have a family and he is affected by what's happening to them. And what is happening to them is an absolute tragedy. He
Hmm.
still has to remain Kirk and take control of the Enterprise. He has to still do what's best for the million people down there on Deneva.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but and this, you throughout this episode they planted this seed of doubt in you also. I mean, in terms of screenplay design and all that, they planted this thing saying ship blew up and he's saying I'm free at last, it's finally
Yes.
gone, I'm free. So
Yeah.
that thing lingers in your head saying, why did he say that? I mean,
Yes.
what's the reason he said that? That's an unbelievable. He just planted it there and left it for you to sort of maybe guess something out of that.
And what kind of insanity forces you to take a ship and fly into the sun? That also goes through your head. Obviously, there is
Yeah.
something there. And then by the end of that sequence where he flies into the sun, you realize that he's not that insane after all. He did have something in mind, but you don't
Mm.
know what it is. And
Yeah.
then you start thinking, what kind of insanity or disease is it that requires you to go almost into a star? That's
Right.
terrifying.
Yeah, yeah. In the first act, I like the sequences that are taken outside. Also, the city looked fantastic. I did some
Amazing
try to
city.
do some research. Apparently, it was a company, and it was taken over. And now I don't think it's no longer the same shape that you see that. Except
Hmm.
one of the library buildings that they show is still there. Apart
Okay.
from that, rest of the company has changed. That's trivia. I went on Google Maps and saw how does it look now. It's
Hmm.
just a parking lot. Wherever these guys went to is just a parking lot now. But
Yes.
fantastic. I like the visuals. It's very space agey, right?
Yes, it
There are
is very, very
cones
space
and
agey, very advanced, very clean, very sanitized, except for the insane people trying to attack them with clubs and bars and sticks and, telling them to get out of the way and we don't want to hurt you. Except for that, it's very serene.
even that one was interesting, intriguing, because he says Spock says, it's conflicting because they have clubs in their hand trying to club us out, but on the other hand they're shouting saying stay away, stay away. I mean, why
Yes,
would you
very
take clubs and
contradictory. And exactly like Spock to pick up on that, in a
yeah.
moment of crisis, there are these people screaming and charging at you, and you're saying, there's a contradiction.
Yeah.
Their actions don't align with their speech. Very, very contradictory. That's exactly what you would say without
Correct, and
panicking.
then after that, McCoy also shouts out. I mean, sorry, blurts out a contradictory statement saying, at this state, they should be unconscious. There should be no neural activity whatsoever. But I can see their
Yeah,
heightened even
yeah,
now. That's like not possible. I don't know how they're doing this.
exactly. They're not supposed to be doing this. It's not physically possible, and yet here they are screaming and running, and they seem completely feverish.
Yeah, yeah.
They do seem diseased, come to think of it. Something is infecting them, something is driving them insane, something is causing them to do this. And I think the actors did a great job there.
Yeah, they looked more like possessed more than anything else,
They
right? So
did, yes.
it's like a zombie state where they're being pushed against their will, and they're
Yeah,
trying to club them, but it's against their will. They're just
it's
watching
against
everything
their will.
happen to themselves.
From their point of view, I can't imagine how nightmarish such a situation would be because your body is
Right.
no longer under your control. Something else in your neural system is attempting to control you, and you're still
Mm,
conscious. You can see what you're doing. You can
mm.
feel your body move against your will, and you know that your body is going to take you forward on the instruction of this infestation or whatever it is, and it's going to take you forward and it's going to force you to kill people, which you don't want
Wow.
to do, and your brain can do nothing.
Pretty intense stuff. That was
Very
very intense.
intense.
So then we see that Sam. So trivia is that was William Shatner who was dressed up as Sam with a
Fresh.
mustache and stuff. Yeah. So I came to know that. I read the show notes, and found that out. I actually couldn't guess because they just show a glimpse. But then
Mm.
later I find out it's Kirk who's done the role for that. Yeah. But by that time, I think he's already come to terms with the fact that his brother is dead, right? So because he
Yes,
hasn't heard anything from them, he knows of this insanity, and there's not a. So he's pretty much come to terms with that.
pretty much. And by the time he sees, like you said, by the time he sees those people outside with their clubs and screaming and attempting to kill them, he makes peace with it. I think somewhere in his mind that he's not going to see his brother again.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. So that was good, and then we that sequence with Aurelian's pain.
Oh
She's
my
not
God,
able to
yes.
describe it in reality because Kirk wants to know what really happened. She's the only one who's conscious and can speak about it, but she's saying very disconnected stuff. She's just saying things, horrible things. I mean, what do you make sense of this? I don't. We can't. So
We
he
can't.
wants to know the answer, but she's not able to give a it kind of reminded me of that doc from the penal colony, right? She's pressured against his will,
Yes,
and
yes,
he's
exactly.
laughing hysterically. Dr. Simon Van Geld, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
reminded him
correct. Something like that. Yes, yes.
something very similar to that, right? So.
Somehow, Aurelian screaming also it makes it clear that something is controlling her and giving her these jolts of pain, and
Hmm.
something wants her to cut off her speech and go into a coma, perhaps, so that she's still able to push out a few words. That seems very painful.
Hmm. So that's when we get to know that they actually force these people to build ships so that they
Yeah.
can take the creatures to, so that they can act as arms and legs and take them across to the next planet, wherever.
True.
So that's when we get to know through Aurelian is when
This
we learn.
reminds me a little bit of an episode in season 2 where our beloved Harry Mudd makes an appearance again, and we and we find all those lovely androids. Everybody wants a ship built so
Ah,
that they can take over the galaxy. So these brain creatures are no different. They want
ah,
ships so that they can
ah.
jump from planet to planet. They want to spread their infestation. They want to multiply because they need hosts, biological hosts. And
Hmm.
with that, they go from one person to the other, infecting one person and then the next person, and then it seems to spread very quickly. And
Yeah.
while they're not infecting this, they stick themselves to walls like pieces, I don't know, pieces of flesh, and they just what, take time out, I don't know, but it's
No, they
yeah,
remind me of. I mean, they do give this. I think McCoy is it who gives the analogy of a bee, right? It's so it leaves a
yeah,
sting in when they
at the
attack
body.
at the body of the live host,
Yeah,
but they also seem to get together and be in a of course dark corner. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where the
that's true.
bee and this creature differ. But they do that. They always hang out together and they seem to be buzzing and staying in one place. So sort of, I don't know, a lot of analogies with the animal kingdom, but still
Very true.
so different, yet very different,
Yeah,
because they are. How does Spock describe these things? Like it's the single, but it's the whole. It's like an ant colony, also in one other respect, right? So
yes, that's true. Yeah.
it's very intriguing how they've brought it all together into the design of this creature. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
True. And what makes it even more frightening, in my opinion, is that it is so alien. You would
Hmm.
expect a single cell creature like this, and it is, I think, established that it's a single cell
Yes.
creature.
Yeah.
So you would expect, first of all, you would expect a single cell creature to be seen under a microscope, not this large, first of all.
Hmm.
And secondly, this single cell creature, not only can it think to a certain extent on its own, it's able to communicate with the other single cell creatures in a peculiar way,
Hmm.
enough to actually control and turn another intelligent species into a zombie like being. So
Hmm.
the whole concept is completely alien, and because these creatures, I believe, are interconnected via some telepathic force or some sort of mind control, you can't even kill them. You don't know
Right.
what kills them because you don't know what constitutes them. So how do you kill them? And it was that lone Denevan who flew into the sun who figured out that something in the light actually kills these
Correct.
creatures.
Correct.
And the fact that these creatures attach themselves to the host, you can pry the creature away, but it's already left enough of material within the host that can turn the victim into a complete zombie like individual with intense pain, and he has no choice but to do whatever the creature wants it to do. And the creature is intelligent enough to make these single cell, I mean, these single cell organisms are part of a whole creature, apparently, right? That's what they say.
Hmm. Hmm.
So each single cell organism is intelligent enough to make the host want to build a ship. That's also very remarkable.
Hmm.
So you start wondering how intelligent or how powerful is the creature in totality. You never see it. You only see these individual brain cells. So you would assume that there are millions of these brain cells. So what happens once it all spreads out? Does the creature get a body?
No, I think
Maybe, yeah.
from a story design perspective, a design
Yeah,
of an antagonist. Look at it. I mean, the antagonist does not speak a word. All you
exactly.
see are actions by
Yeah,
this. The of course there's the revolting appearance.
yeah.
Okay, fine. I can give it to that part. But then the reason you hate this creature so much, and you fear it because of its actions, and you can
Very
see
true.
they attack, and it inflicts pain, and it makes them build ships against their will, makes them fly into suns just to get rid of them. So
Exactly.
it's unbelievable. So antagonist design 100 marks for that, 100 out of
100
100.
marks, 100 marks. And Bala, I was also thinking the antagonist does so many things to its host and puts them through pain and all that. It's doing what it was designed to do. Nature
Yes.
made it that way, and that's how
Yes.
it's functioning. So, I mean, not that I sympathize with it, that would be crazy, but
No, I
yes,
think you're right. You're right. From their perspective, they're trying to survive, right? So
yeah,
this
they're
is
trying to
how
survive.
correct.
So
This is
this
how
is how it
fungi
is designed.
survive.
It's a
Right?
large intersolar creature that spreads across solar systems and maybe galaxies. I don't know, and this is how it
Hmm.
was designed. It's doing
Yeah,
what any predator would do, I guess, because
absolutely.
many predators do inflict pain, and this is what this one does. It turns
Hmm.
people into zombies and it tries to control them.
Yeah, coming to the second act, the
Ah,
Spock's attempt to take over the ship was fantastic. I mean, this guy is so strong in spite of his,
incredibly strong.
his infection, is whatever. He's like, it takes six people to overpower him and
Yes.
make him not take control of the ship.
Yeah.
Oh, phenomenal! And finally, what did they do? They sedative, huh? McCoy tranquilizes Spock, I think, right? That's what
Yes, he
happens.
does. He does. He does tranquilize him. That was such an intense scene. You know that Spock here is trying to control himself, and he's trying
Mm.
not to do the stupid thing that his body is making him do.
So that's summed up by Spock again. He says, "I did not understand." He's like, McCoy says, well, "What is there to understand? I mean, you're infected. You belong to the bed. We understand that part. What is there to understand? What is the pain? Oh, I'm not like you. I'm a Vulcan. Pain is a thing of the mind." He gives all this philosophy, and like McCoy, like, shut up and just
Yeah,
lie down.
I know he says so much that you're also thinking, Spock, just shut up, please. That's enough. Could you just cut it out and stop it? Oh, by the way, the thing he says, pain is a thing of the mind. The mind can be
Ah,
controlled. It really
yes.
reminds me of Dune. Fear is the
Ah,
mind killer. It reminds me of that somehow. Because you
oh,
have
yes,
this,
yes, yes.
yeah, you have this emotion that can be controlled and he can do it. That's what he's telling
Yeah.
himself.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Yeah, this when I saw the movie and I saw the dialogue, I was reminded of Spock and Operation Annihilate.
Yes.
Annihilate did come to my mind. Yes, you're right. Pain is a thing of the mind, and mind can be controlled. That's what he
Yes,
says.
yes. Pala, it was so frustrating watching Spock trying to, with all that pain, he's lying down there looking feverish and insane, and he's trying to break down the pain and try to figure out which part of his mind is controlling this and then switch that off. No wonder McCoy lost.
No, even that, right? The music build up for that when McCoy and Kirk are gone, he frees himself of the restraints. Oh, fantastic! Music build up and oh, mind can be controlled. I'm a Vulcan. I'm a Vulcan. He kept saying that, and then he finally breaks free of the restraints also.
And
I mean,
he
nothing can stop him.
staggers into the bridge like an absolute zombie. He doesn't. It's not Spock at all. He looks feverish. He looks completely zombie. Like, yeah, he deserves a court martial for it. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, then comes this whole idea of Spock now commandeering. I mean, he goes to the transporter, and
Yeah.
now he has to beam down with
Alone.
this tongs and all that, and he's ready to go take it all by himself.
Yeah.
And McCoy is like, "Oh, I don't want my patients running around like this. This man belongs to the bed." And Kirk says, "Oh, your logic, as usual, is unescapable." Oh God, how
His
many times?
logic is infuriating in this episode. I am most of the time I'm thinking, will you just be quiet, Spock? What is wrong with you?
Oh, Kirk just gives in and says, "Okay, just go do it. And just don't bother me with the details." McCoy is just, he has to hold. Oh, don't tell me he's the man for the job, and only man for the job. And Kirk says, "Oh, come on. We both know he is. Just get on with your duties.
Yeah.
Go analyze your tentacles. That's it." Classic. classic second act. It's just now we are these three people. That's the best part about this, right? From now on, apparently season one, this is the last episode, and this is where the last time we don't see DeForest Kelly's name appear in the titles itself. The title. So from season two
That's in
onwards, you
season
start
two.
seeing
Yeah.
his name. Yeah. Because
That's
they found that his role is so important to the stories, and DeForest Kelly was doing such a good job that they said we need to put him in the title credits itself, the starting credits itself.
He's so good. He's so good at the banter, and
Yes.
he's so grumpy. And no wonder he's grumpy when you have a patient like Spock. But still, I'm saying.
Yeah, then I think third act is about this, and now they have figured out that this is a brain cell and this is a one cell creature. Like you said, there's a telepathic connection, probably very similar to bats or ants or bees, very similar to all of that. And now they have to really find the solution.
Yes,
And the
and the
clock is
whole
ticking.
third.
The clock is
Yeah,
ticking because the
clock is ticking.
inspection is spreading like crazy, and they have to get rid of it
Find the
before they.
solution.
Yeah,
And
probably they'll build enough ships to get them across with the infection and start spreading to the denser part of the galaxy.
it is also frustrating for the viewer to watch how they keep throwing things at this brain cell and it refuses to die. It doesn't. It's completely unfazed. You can't even make a cut on the surface. Eventually, they just have to brainstorm and go back to that one insane moment that you find in the teaser, where
Yeah,
someone drives a ship
exactly.
into the sun.
But it's not so obvious. I mean, Kirk says, "Oh, he gets this idea," but if you look at it, the sun has last thing you would want to separate the heat and the light and try only light. You would always think, "Oh, heat and gravity and all that. That's what the sun has." So actually, it's amazing how he even gets that idea. I guess by sheer elimination, they've tried everything. This is the only one thing that remains.
And also, I think it's something like necessity forced him to come up with
Right.
wild theories, and this is the one that stuck. This is the one that actually made sense. But the catch was that it's not the full spectrum of light; it's just the
Yes.
ultraviolet.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of which, that was also an interesting part there, where because you normally in a normal course of research, in a medical research, everything, you will consider all the factors, you will look at the report, study it, and try to identify what's going on. But this is emergency, right? This is like war footing. They need the cure as quickly as possible. So obviously,
Immediately, yes.
so obviously McCoy didn't have time to sift through the report and find out that the UV part is alone enough to do this, and
Exactly.
instead they end up blinding Spock. So that was a very interesting sequence and a good moment where we see Kirk initially without those words. I mean, that's the best part. Kirk just says bones, and did you had didn't needlessly have blinded Spock. He doesn't say that, but he just says bone.
But in that scene, Spock also brought it on himself without wearing the
Yes.
protective eye gear. He did not have to play the hero at that point. But
Yes. Yes.
it was unnecessary. He's a test subject, so you must first find out whether what you're doing is right. So why not take the necessary precautions? Because now you have him blinded for no reason. I mean, it's done later, obviously, but still, there was no need for him to be blinded. It was just he was just being pig-headed, I think.
Yeah, he knew the risks. I mean,
He did.
it's like those people sign up for these clinical trials and they get this huge statement done, right? So they are appraised of the risks that go into. We know they've done their initial tests on, I don't know, simulations or animals. I don't know how they do that, but yes, it is tricky at that point. This is a very rapid test. McCoy probably doesn't know everything about this creature. Obviously, doesn't know it. So this was a huge risk. You could argue that Spock was playing the hero, or Spock was just trying to be a good scientist by saying that.
I mean, which is completely unnecessary. He didn't have to insist that he will not wear the goggles. Could have worn the goggles. We are not 100% sure that it's the full spectrum of light that would kill the creature. So he really didn't have to put himself in the same position as those people down there because they are not going to be in the same position. They missed a step. He didn't have to do that. He should have listened to McCoy. I know he dismisses him a lot of the time, but he could have listened to him once.
And now Kirk tries to pacify McCoy by saying it wasn't your fault, but McCoy is not convinced. He still thinks it's his fault that he did
He
this
does.
to the
He does
entire
think it
spectrum.
is.
That was
Finally they
inner
find that
eyelid.
inner island cop out. Even McCoy thinks so. I have company. So just imagine he goes blind and then suddenly, oh, I have an inner eyelid, therefore I am not blind. What is this, Bala? I have never.
Only Spock could have pulled off such a thing. No
I
one
know
else in
only
the
Spock could
galaxy
have.
could have done such a thing.
Careful.
Oh, we ignore our eyelid like you guys ignore your
Yeah,
appendix.
we just have an inner eyelid. So yeah, throw us the full spectrum of light. That's fine. It's okay. We have an inner eyelid.
I thought I was just playing the hero, but what the heck?
Yeah, me and my inner eyelid. That's it. I'm not blind. It's very funny, a bit of a cop out, and that made it even more funny.
And of course, the last comment, don't say, don't tell him that I said he was the best officer in the fleet. And this guy turns around and said, oh, why, thank you, doctor.
Yeah, you forgot his Vulcan ears. I mean, you were talking about his Vulcan eyes, but you forgot his Vulcan ears. Oh my God.
Oh, brilliant. Such,
Yeah, I
such a
love the way
brilliant.
they wrapped it up on a lighter
Yeah,
note because we were
yeah.
subject to a lot of intensity before that.
Oh, yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely true. So we get to our likes and dislikes section.
Yep.
So what do you have? I'm sure I know it,
Hey, I
but
like the whole thing. Yeah, I like absolutely the whole thing. It's an amazing episode. I'm not sure I disliked anything, honestly. Everything was just well paced and I
yeah,
really enjoyed it. And I
right.
liked everything. I especially liked the concept of that creature. Not that I like the creature, I
Mm,
like the
mm,
concept of the creature because it's terrifying. It's alien and it can
mm.
do a lot of damage and it's a predator. And from its point of view, it's just surviving. I love that.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah, no
absolutely.
dislikes at all. What about you?
I like, we already talked about this, the personal story of Kirk
Yeah.
intertwining with the his duty and that creating conflicts in this. This is very nicely done. And oh, of course, I want that third alternative. So he refuses to
Yes.
accept compromises.
True.
Loved it.
Yes.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Absolutely amazing.
Because
Yes.
yeah, you cannot trade. I mean, you can't argue that a million lives should go for the betterment of the rest of the galaxy. It's
Mm.
not a valid argument. Even though it may sound logical, but it's not a valid argument. So he says, I
Yeah.
want the third alternate. Absolutely no compromise.
No
Million people
compromise.
should live on, and the creature should be destroyed without any damage to the rest of the people.
Yeah, and you
And
don't know that, destroying 1 million people would kill the creature anyway. It would find
yes,
something
yes,
else.
absolutely. You have no guarantees to that either. So it is amazing.
That's a
That's the
good
best.
call. Yeah, a
Yeah.
good call.
And from a story design perspective, beat after beat, it's getting more intense. Conflict after, it's
Incredibly
just getting
intense.
more and more intense. It's like
Yeah.
gripping. The the,
Mm.
the, the suspense is just amazing. That like, how are they going to ever solve this? And the last part for me was, like you said, the antagonist design. You get the clear motivation. There are no dialogues, yet it's so intimidating and memorable. I mean, after so many years, I still remember that icky little creature and all that. It's very well
It
done.
squeaks.
Unbelievable. It squeaks, yeah.
It squeaks. Yeah, it makes those squeaky, icky sounds, and it dies in a most spectacular fashion because
like
yuck.
a like an egg omelet, huh? Just it just goes off.
Oh God, that's an analogy. Yikes.
Like a burnt omelet. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, yuck. Very graphic.
Okay, that brings us to our hypothetical question. If the screenwriter were to appear in this podcast, what would you ask them to change or to explain?
Okay, my request to the screenwriter is you better keep this as it is and don't change a thing because I don't think it needs to be changed.
I had the exact same thing. Anything in this episode. But what happened to you guys in season 3? Did you go off on a holiday?
Did you all quit or was it someone else? What
Or
did
did
we
the
get in season 3?
creatures attack you guys saying, don't turn out good stories or we're going to inflict pain on you?
It seems like that. They were all infected. Yes, that makes sense.
Oh, that was fun. I loved this and a befitting ending to season 1 of
Yeah.
our podcast and for the series also, for the original series as well. Fantastic, fantastic end. Thank you so much, Parvati, for analyzing it to the deepest route possible here. And yeah,
Thank
I
you.
had a lot of fun discussing this as well. Thanks a lot, Parvati.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening. See you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you and bye.
Bye, everyone.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening to the podcast Enterprise. Please do share your reviews with us, and please share this podcast with any of your writing friends or trickies. Live long and prosper.